When are the transactions coming? It might be a little sooner than you think. Oh, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 222 of Buds and Blue Jays. It's your place for all things related to the Toronto Blue Jays. Jesse Burrow here, joined by Jesse Tricio, and today on the show, we give you an update on the Juan Soto to Toronto rumors. Is it really going to happen? Is he going to come here? Is he going to be our savior? We'll see. We'll share our thoughts on this episode. Plus, we give our thoughts on some other free agents and trades that the Blue Jays can make. We say goodbye to Jordan Romano and Dylan Tate, for that matter. And we give our thoughts on bullpen pieces, and we figure out how we can save this Toronto Blue Jays bullpen once and for all. But first, Jesse, before we get into all this, how are you, my guy? Welcome back. Good to have you. What's going on this fine Thursday afternoon?
Good to be back, and welcome back to this side of the border.
Yes,
saw that you had a great trip last week and all different types of weather. But yeah, I'm doing good. It's a football day for the Americans and us Canadians to watch. But we're talking baseball. But a happy American Thanksgiving to any Americans that are watching out here and anyone that has a family in America.
Absolutely. It really is the festive season once we get into here. And if you note, Jesse, the bulk of the free agent transactions that happen around baseball usually happen between the American Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. So I just want to say shout out to official transaction season. We have seen a few big dominoes around Major League Baseball. Our good friend Yusei Kikuchi signed with the Angels. Blake Snell signed like 2 nights ago with the LA Dodgers. So we are starting to see movement around Major League Baseball. And with Juan Soto allegedly having offers now from 5 teams, including our Toronto Blue Jays, I think it might be getting soon here. We start to see some traction with our team as well.
Oh, definitely. We did make a minor deal. We'll talk about that, but like yes. that was the pebble to get the boulder to move.
Yeah, Michael Stefniak is not changing a bunch of terms here, but we will touch on him a little later in the episode because it could have deeper implications for this Toronto Blue Jays roster going forward. But without further ado, let's dive right into the meat of this episode, Jesse. And it's been 2 weeks since we've done our last episode. And last time we were all hot and heavy over Juan Soto. Like, is he going to happen, or is this just Shohei Ohtani 2.0? We will see here. But first, Jesse, I want you to give me a number right now with what we know with Juan Soto and the Blue Jays being one of 5 teams left in the running for him. Give me a % chance that on opening day you think Juan Soto is a Toronto Blue Jay.
Well, if you do the math, it's 20% because
sure.
But last episode when I was on, I said 70%. I'm sure, but I'm more in the lower 35, I'll say 30 to 35% chance.
Okay.
And it's just more from what I've heard from the other organizations, like the Red Sox, the Stankies, the Mets, and the deferred Dodgers.
Sure.
That what they could possibly how they would present it and all that. And yes, I would like him here, and the only way I feel like he's here is if we extend Vladdy on top of signing him, because that's a key piece they talk about. He wants to know about the future and not just the money. So, what the Jays need to do to persuade him more is probably stuff we've all been screaming for the last, year and a half to 2 years.
Right. So if Juan Soto is indeed going to pick the Blue Jays, and if it is as high as 30%, like you seem to think it is, then the Blue Jays have a lot more work to do. And I've been thinking about Juan Soto a lot over these last 2 weeks about whether or not he should choose the Blue Jays. And say if you're in Soto's shoes, why would you pick Toronto, right? Out of the 5 teams that have given him offers, the Blue Jays were the only team that came last place last year, right? So there's that. The team needs to get significantly better. We don't have a key piece signed long-term, right? Like the Yankees have Aaron Judge, the Mets have Lindor, the Dodgers have half their freaking roster. Even the Red Sox have Rafael Devers signed long-term. Like the Blue Jays are the only one who have so much inconsistency going after this year. And on top of that too, I understand the Blue Jays have strong roots in the Dominican and stuff, but a lot of things have to go right for the Blue Jays in order to entice Juan Soto to get here. And maybe it is just as simple as we offer him the most money. Right? Rogers is a big thing. We can do that. But the more these days go by and the more these offers come in, I'm getting less and less optimistic that the Juan Soto actually does become a Toronto Blue Jay.
Oh, definitely, and that's why I'm like my excitement and hope has diminished so much from like last time I was on. It was like
Mhm.
just knowing like the only way we get it is if we overspend and get punished by it and like lose a lot of key possible abilities to have a longer window of excellence. And that's where I'm issue. Like if you like you said, there's Lindor in the Mets, Judge, and all that. The Red Sox have all like their capacity endeavors, but they also
Mhm.
have probably a top five prospect pool
Correct.
in their system. Plus, there's rumors about like them adding other players, like crocheting
Yep.
that to
Mhm.
make them even scarier. Where the Jays, we got the Buffalo Boys and kind of Vladdy and Bo and an, a grandpa version of Springer.
Right. And it's not enticing, right? And if you're Juan Soto, you never know how these things are going to go. Shohei Ohtani chose the Angels when he first got here because it just felt right. Maybe Juan Soto feels like the Blue Jays just feel right. And hey, you get to be teammates with Ernie Clement. That sounds like good enough reason alone to join this team. But I'm really starting to think that the Juan Soto to Blue Jays rumors are just smoke, and that the Blue Jays, even if they do offer a massive contract to him, I do think that he's going to turn it down. He's going to sign somewhere else. And the Blue Jays really do need to start shifting to a backup plan ASAP, because we cannot have what happened last year, where we spend so much time and effort on Ohtani that we miss out on a lot of other free agents, and we're left with Justin Turner and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. That cannot happen this offseason.
No, exactly. And you forgot one other one, the man, the myth, legend of Danny Burkers.
Yeah, right. Or you can count Yariel Rodriguez in that, but still very minor moves that the Blue Jays made last offseason. Like, we cannot be in that bounds this year. We need to act soon. And we've talked about this before, but the Blue Jays like to be realistic. Like, they have a budget for what they want to spend, or they have a price, right? But I think Andrew Friedman, who's the Dodgers general manager, once said, well, if you're realistic on every single free agent, you're going to finish second place on every single free agent. And tell me if you've heard that before from the Toronto Blue Jays finishing second on free agents. So they need to do a big change, a big shift, and maybe they do just get dramatic, but ultimately I don't think it's going to be Juan Soto.
No, definitely. I don't. I'm really excited not to think I will. I will love it because I know what he can do, and it's again as he does has numbers that you only have seen in like Ted Williams and like
Yeah, you're
the
buying a
like
Hall of Fame plaque. If you sign Juan Soto, you are buying his Hall of Fame plaque.
exactly, and his jersey's going to be up there with Holiday and all that
Mhm.
like in the rafters, and hopefully some other World Series championships too. That which would be great, but like he's already a Hall of Famer, and he's only 26.
Yeah. Even just Juan Soto, though, does not get this Blue Jays team to where it needs to be. He could be a 10 more player, for goodness sake. That still puts the Blue Jays, at 86 ish wins, and maybe is the third wild card spot. And that's with the best season Juan Soto's ever had. So there's still a lot more work to do. So I think, Jesse, let's talk about then what our backup plan should be, right? Let's assume Juan Soto is not a Toronto Blue Jay. Let's dive into then what we think the Toronto Blue Jays should do. And I have a rumor mill that just came up from MLB Trade Rumors that said the Blue Jays are interested in 4 players. And I want to get your take here on all 4 of these players. We can do them one at a time if you'd like, or you can rapid fire all 4, your choice. But the 4 names are Alex Bregman, Luis Severino, Anthony Santander, and Max Fried. First of all, Jesse, rank those 4 names on which one you'd rather have, and give me a little blurb about how you feel about those 4 players.
I'll probably go 1 Freed, 2 Bregman, 3 Severino, 4 Santander.
Okay. So
And
why would so start with Fried at the top then? What makes him your number 1 choice to join the Toronto Blue Jays?
the reason, like I've been hearing this and I've been thinking about it too, is like if we sign Max Fried, say to a 6-year 184, which would probably be similar to Blake Snell type of deal,
Okay.
You have that. It helps bridge that gap too for when Gosman and Bassett leave in the next 2 years. You have that co-star when it comes to him and Barrios in the past last season. Also, it gives that presence of like an ace when like the young guys like that when Mano comes back, Tiedemann, Savage, Bloss, back all these young kids coming from that we have whoever are all coming back from TJs because, as I said before, we led the league in Tommy John surgeries, and
Yes, that's true.
and like and even stuff pitchers that we haven't even drafted that could be studs of, like in the future, like or even bullpeners that have then be converted to like starting pitchers like Stevenson in the minors that we drafted this year.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch of young players that I feel like he can bridge that gap where like we can see what we have and what pieces to trade if we need to fix the rotation in the future.
Okay, so he's durable and he's an arm. Yes, that's great. But my question is with Max Fried, are we sure he's going to continue to be this good? Is my question. You know, because I look at Max Fried and I see two pitchers here, right? One, I see a pitcher who has barely thrown over 100 and some. Well, I don't have the exact number on me here, but he hasn't reached that higher echelon of innings pitched in a long time. He's less than 1 strikeouts per inning, right? And he's like, what, 31 now? So if you're giving this guy a 6-7 year deal, are we really sure this guy can sustain being that good? But then two, I look at the quality of contact numbers against, and Max Fried is one of the best in baseball at not allowing hard contact. I think only Zach Wheeler allowed more soft contact. And we know the Blue Jays have liked guys like this before. Chris Bassett, for example, when he was a free agent, led baseball in quality of contact against. Like no one hit balls softer against any pitcher than Chris Bassett. So I can see that happening from Max Fried. However, what I see is when that type of player gets older and the skills start to diminish, maybe the movement on the curveball isn't that good, maybe the fastball loses a tick or two velocity, it falls apart very quickly, right? Think Chris Bassett this last year. Think about Hyun-Jin Ryu, his last few years. He got absolutely hammered. Ross Stripling, when he lost a touch of his soft contact, got absolutely hammered. And I'm really worried that that same path would follow Max Fried down the line.
Oh, definitely. It is a risk, like, but that's a risk for any free agent. Like, look what will happen. And I have someone like in one of our in the list. I'll go back to Anthony Santander, as I call him. I feel like he's going to be a Kendry Morales 2.0, with just like it just screams at like a big year, like big few years with the Orioles, and then if he comes here, will he just become a shadow of himself, like pretty much what Morales did when he left the Royals?
Yeah, similar. Good point on Anthony Santander. I'm with you on that because if you look under the hood, like he doesn't walk too much, his contact isn't great. He's just got the power, and once these power hitters lose that power, you're looking at a Kendrys Morales type player, and that's not the type of guy you want to give this money to. So I agree with you, I believe, on that. Plus, his defense is not that great out there in the outfield. So I'm kind of with you on that. Let's talk about the other two names here then. I guess we'll start with Alex Bregman, who I know I've shared my gripe on Alex Bregman in season, but I want to hear your thoughts first before I get into mine.
I've always thought it was either him or Alonso. I always thought were the two like future Jays. Like I don't like those are the two names that always came at like screamed to me. I'm like, they're going to be the Jays are going to sign these ones if they don't sign whether like Soto or any of the other big free agents. Those are the two guys that they'll covet, and then they'll figure out what to do. Do with Vladdy if they sign Alonso on that, and then the rest of the infield if they sign Bregman. Like I feel like Bregman could be that. Like he won't be what he was his MVP caliber year where he hit the 40 home runs. I believe the 1 year.
Yep. And the juice ball era, yeah.
But yeah, juice ball era where like even Biggio hit double digit home runs. But like I feel like he could be like a really good defensively, and he said if he would move to second if like say he isn't like performing well at third, like he would go to second, which is showing like he's open to like shifted, which means he'll be signing someone else to play third or trade for someone to be our third baseman. I like him. Do I think he can succeed in Toronto? Probably because he is more of a doubles merchant, and like yes, a lot of his home runs are because of the Crawford boxes. Our outfield isn't as deep, but it's pretty similar depth as Houston too. So like maybe it'll help him. But I would like to see him on there, and I feel like he'd be a good piece because realistically, the third baseman is the hot corner, and like does do a lot of stuff to prevent runs and that, and
yeah, he just won a Gold Glove, right?
exactly, and been an MVP caliber and player for most of his career, except for this year where he started really slow.
Mm-hmm. So I look at Alex Bregman, right, and he's obviously a well-known guy. The Astros have been in the playoffs for forever, and Bregman's been a key part of that lineup for a long time. Last season, 26 home runs. If he played all of his games in Houston, he hits 31. If he played all of his games at Rogers Center, he hits 29. That's up there. But if you look at some other stadiums around the league, like if he played all his games in Pittsburgh, he only hit 19 home runs, right? If he played all his games in Cleveland, he only hits 18 home runs. If he played all his games in Baltimore, 14 home runs. So therefore, I'm looking at the power output of Alex Bregman, and I'm thinking we're going to get anywhere between 15 to maybe 25 home runs. I don't think 30 is realistic again, especially when you look at his walk rate dropped nearly in half last year. His quality of contact, his WOBA, his expected WOBA dropped to the worst of his career last season. He's 31 years old. I think he's going to be a 250 hitter who, like I said, 15 to 25 home runs, whose bat speed's getting worse, right? Who, sure, the defense is great, but I'm not sold on Alex Bregman either, and I don't think he's worth the 7-year, $130 million contract he's going to get. If I'm the Blue Jays, I'd rather spend that money elsewhere.
No, I totally agree, and that's why, if I were the Jays, it'd be either that starting pitcher to bridge the gap for the to soften the blow when we lose Gausman and Bassett, or realistically, I still say Pete Alonso would be a piece to bring in here for the. Yes, that means where do you put Vladdy, but that power is
real. Right?
The power and his abilities speak for themselves.
Yeah, Pete Alonso's interesting because he started hitting the ball a lot more to the opposite field last year. Remember that home run he hit off Devin Williams in the playoffs was opposite field? Blue Jays must love the opposite field approach they've been seeing from Pete Alonso. It must be driving them insane. But before we get on to that here, Luis Severino, last thought on him. You've talked about the starting pitcher to bridge the gap. He's going to be cheaper than the Max Fried type pitcher here. He did have a resurgence last year with the Mets. He didn't quite get the strikeout numbers back to what he had with the Yankees, but was a quality pitcher last year. Do you have a thought on him if he were to join this rotation?
I wouldn't mind him. Again, like you said, he had a resurgence this year with the Mets, and I feel like he'd be a good 5 low end of the rotation starter, where that would mean that we move Yariel Rodriguez to the bullpen, which we'll talk about later.
Yes,
but I feel like it would be a good fit every fifth day when you have Bowden, Bassett, Berrios, and Lawson your core 4 for the rotation. So I feel like it'd be a good move for a 1 or 2 year deal. Nothing too crazy. No 6 years, $150 million for him. Definitely not that.
Yeah, it's going to be the bang for the buck. I don't know if Luis Severino's upside is nearly as high as we think it could be, but he does have a good fastball, and the Blue Jays need more pitchers who have good fastballs. So maybe something there. But all right, Jesse. So we've talked about those. I don't think any of us were thrilled about those 4 names here. They would not be our first choice. Maybe Fried, I guess. Maybe we like Severino a touch, but Santander and Alex Bregman, we're not in love with here on the show. So let's talk about then. Say we don't get Juan Soto, right? And we go by, say, Mark Shapiro was telling the truth, which we can never assume Mark Shapiro is telling the truth. But let's assume that he is, and the Blue Jays payroll is going to be very similar to what we finished last year with. So right now, as things stand, if you include the money we still owe to Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, if you include how much money these guys are projected to get in arbitration next year, the Blue Jays payroll currently sits at about $202 million. To get up to where we were last year at the end of the season, that was just about $240 million. If you go to about the start of last season, it was about $260. So let's assume then the Blue Jays have anywhere between $40 and $60 million-ish in AAV for this season to work with. Let's cut it in the middle and say we got $50 million to work with in free agent, right? So that is essentially Juan Soto, but just Juan Soto. But that's a separate thing, different budget. I get that. So the way I'm looking at this then is if those numbers are true, the Blue Jays are likely going to sign one of the high-end free agent players. So that's your Max Fried, that's your Corbin Burns, that's your Pete Alonso, Willie Adames type. And then they're going to sign one player in the next tier, which is like your Ha-Seong Kim, your Shane Bieber, Christian Walker, Tyler O'Neill, Nick Pivetta group of free agent. And then that leaves us with about 5 to 10 million to fix our bullpen, which we will try to dabble in the second half of this episode here to fix. So let's say that is the case here. I guess two options. Would you rather do it that way where we get one of the top guys, one of the mid-tier guys, and then just throw some money around to fix the rest of the team? Would you rather say we ignore the top end of the free agent class and we just kind of look through 3 or 4 of these middle-tier guys and hope they stick, or one of them click? Or do we just go big boom or bust? We sign 2 of the top guys and then screw the bullpen, screw everything else. It'll all fall into place. What's your plan on how to go about this?
I definitely was hearing I was just thinking about this and hearing on different podcasts and stuff and reading. It's like I definitely will do like one of each level kind of signing. So,
and that's right.
So how I would do it would be like say Adames, O'Neill, and then use some money to fix the bullpen and like pick up like a Kirby Yates and stuff like players like that, or even like Clay Holmes, like someone like in that like echelon, and then use some of our like limited depth but valuable value that we have there, and then use that in some trades to fill out the rest of the holes we need.
Yep. Okay. So I agree with you there. I think we should do that too. We should send one of the high end names, one of the mid tier guys, and then we fill out the 6 to 10 million with guys around the edges here, like a lefty reliever in the bullpen, and we'll touch on the bullpen later. But let's then try to figure that out then. So I went to MLB Trade Rumors. I looked at all the upcoming free agents, and I went through and looked what their projected AAV is. And I got 7 names for those of who are projected to make 20 million or more than 20 million going to the next year. So, Jesse, if you can only pick one of these 7 players to become a Blue Jay next season, which will it be? And those 7 names: Willie Adames, Alex Bregman, Corbin Burns, Jack Flaherty, Max Fried, Teoscar Hernandez, Pete Alonso. Which one are you picking?
Oh, there's 2 that I want really badly on the Jays.
Well, who are they?
Pete Alonso and Willie Adames. Like those are the 2 names I've been, and you even know I'd say these are the Jays I want. Like if they became a Jay, like if same way as if Soto became a Jay, that very same day it's official. I'm at the Jay shop buying a jersey at the Rogers Center.
Right. Me too. But if bullet to your head, you can only sign one. Who's it going to be?
I definitely would say it has to be. I would say Willie Adames just because of how our team is positioned right now, and if we extend Lai, then it makes more sense to have Adames over Pete Alonso due to the positional mismatch. But again, you can always move Lai to third or vice versa, figure it out. But yeah,
go ahead.
I've been leaning more towards Adames just because he can. If he moves to third, it makes our left side of the infield really good. Or if he plays second, him and Bichette up the middle could be a very nice combo too.
Right. My number one choice out of all this is Corbin Burns, but I haven't ruled it out yet. I also don't know if Corbin Burns is going to age particularly well. But out of those 7 names, he is my choice for number 1. If I had to go position player side, I'm with you. I think Willie Adames is probably the play. I just think Pete Alonso, kind of like we had with Santander, is like once the bat speed kind of goes, there's not much left. Right. So I'm with you on that. So therefore, if that is our big name, our top end free agent that we sign, that leaves us I got about 9 to 10 names here in the middle tier. And let's assume we got Willie Adames in 1. Then who else are you signing? And these names include Ha-Seong Kim, Gleyber Torres, Shane Bieber, Sean Manaea, Nathan Eovaldi, Christian Walker, Tyler O'Neill, Jurickson Profar, Walker Buehler, Nick Pivetta, Luis Severino. All those players are projected to between the $15 and $20 million range. I know I said a lot there, but was there a name or 2 that really caught up there that you think could be a difference maker for the Blue Jays here?
One I've been thinking he's going to be a Jay just because he just screams how our manager is, and it's going to be Tyler O'Neill, and also because he's Canadian too.
Sure,
and
I mean,
and him and
so you know.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta get the ratio back, and also him and Barger would be the Jack boys.
Love that. Yeah, there'd probably be some massive bench pressing competition going on between Barger and Tyler O'Neill. The problem is with Tyler O'Neill, right-handed hitter, he's got an OPS of 1 billion against lefties. I'm pretty sure he took Kikuchi deep at least 7 times this past season. Probably wrong on that, but that's what it felt like. Every time Tyler O'Neill would go up against Kikuchi, he would take him deep. Platoon bats, you put him in the outfield. I have to look up his splits to see how he hits against righties. But that's kind of the way you'd go, to fix the offense, is like you take a Willie Adames or Pete Alonso and pair it with Tyler O'Neill.
Yeah, like if we don't get Adames, then I would look at more like one of the like middle infielders, like the Gleyber Torres or the Hoskey Kim, and that. If we got Alonso, it all depends on who we get. Like if we got like Adames, then I want more of a power or outfielder or corner. Like I would even be having with Christian Walker too, because he is so slept on when it comes to his numbers and abilities and that. So like I would take him to like in that middle tier, but it all depends on who is the big fish coming to Toronto.
Right. And that's why these two players kind of go hand in hand, right? I don't think you want, say, a starting pitcher from the top tier and then also a starting pitcher from the bottom tier, because then it leaves no money left to improve your offense. And same deal here with the two players you just brought up. Yes, our offense should be much better, but that probably takes us out of the running for a high-end starting pitcher, definitely out of the high-end bullpen arms. And then we have to kind of get creative with how we fill our pitching staff. So it's very going to go hand in hand here with how they go about this. The name I liked the most out of that middle tier, you already mentioned it, Christian Walker, because I think he can be had at a good price for only about 2 to 3 years or so. I really like that skill set. But the problem is first base on this team is already very crowded. You'd have to probably rely on Spencer Horwitz getting more at-bats at second or Vlad playing third full-time, which I don't know if I love either of those moves either, unless one of them is set off in a trade, etc. So I'd probably go Christian Walker in that middle tier, which is projected for about 18 million. And then I guess Max Fried in the first tier, but I don't love that either. It's hit and miss. And basically what my point is trying to say here, I think it's really, really hard for the Toronto Blue Jays on that budget that they have to build a competitive team and to really fix this team with the free agent crop that is available and with the state of their current roster. Like I think it's going to be next to impossible. And I don't believe that Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro can figure it out.
Oh, I know. And hopefully, Ed Rogers can open his paycheck and be fine, spend whatever you need to get it. Almost be like the C. Cohen and the Steinberg esque, just pay the people, pay the players, get who you need. We'll figure it out later. And especially with that Eras tour that just came through Toronto, and now this the one that's with the Post Malone that's coming in the spring. There's some serious money coming into the Rogers Center to pay for those cup holders they made our future Blue Jays.
I just paid a lot of money to go see Billy Joel at the Rogers Center coming up in March. So add that one up to the list of concerts and stuff too. Look, it's true. And I don't know how much Ed Rogers is going to want to give them more money, seeing how we just spent all this money on renovations, et cetera, et cetera. But I know the last thing they want is to see an empty Rogers Center all summer. So they're going to have to try to put a competitive team forward to do that. I do also wonder if the television status of the Bally sports groups and some of the teams across Major League Baseball, the fact that the Blue Jays have their own TV program revenue, direct to consumer thing, if that will have an effect on the Blue Jays getting some more money here because they know their income is already pretty stable, is pretty good. We will see. I like where your head's at, Jesse. I really do not think, though, the Blue Jays are going to just fork over and dump over all this money, unfortunately. And I think the move ultimately that might put the Blue Jays over the top is probably going to be a trade of some kind. And I think that's what's going to be the difference makers here.
Oh, definitely. And some of the trade rumors and fake trades we've all that you love so much. And people don't know Jesse. He hates those more than the Yankees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, I'm not a fan of fake trade season.
But no, some of the rumored trades and possible players that could be available, and what they're saying that they could go for is you really think oh, that'd be a fit for the Jays, the whole Arenado and Helsley possibility. I'm that could work.
Right, I look at even Cabrian Hayes and David Bednar, that could work.
Alec Bohm and Nick Castellanos and all that
for a while.
Oh yeah, or even now with the Mets talking about Beatty being up and some of their Starling Marte and stuff being up.
Mm-hmm. right?
too.
Texas is trying to cut salary, so you could throw in like a Willie Adames. Maybe they're soured on Evan Carter, for example. Like there are moves that are
Adolis
going to be made.
Yeah, like the Brewers are like with Devin Williams and like even some of their other players and all that. Like possible, like see if you can like a Bryce Trang or a Tyler Black. Like, yes, they're young and like controllable, but like players like that, all these teams are having issues. Even though Guardians, they don't really have a TV revenue. Why don't you try to get Josh Naylor or
Josh Naylor, a free agent at the end of next year? Like that's a good choice. Minnesota's looking to move some money as well.
Exactly, like or even maybe like this would be a crazy one, but like maybe try to even bring like a Carlos Correa in if you are going to ship Bowells, like
like
and we have the Minnesota's old hitting coach with Correa praise, and they said changed his career, so like why not? You're already in the Canadian weather in Minnesota, which is probably worse than ours. Why don't you just come over the border?
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's all good theories. I think, Jesse, that's what we should do is on our next episode, if there are still no big Blue Jays transactions, we should actually start looking at the trade targets and trying to pin down what it could be. The reason why we like free agents so much is, one, we know who they all are, we know who's available and who's not, and we know it's going to cost nothing but money. And we can keep our current core, our current team. So that is very interesting.
And it's not our money.
And it's not our money, which ultimately we are so good at spending other people's money. And just like fans everywhere are all good at doing it. So with that being said, Jesse, can I get your final name or names, I suppose, on the free agent front that you think should be Toronto Blue Jays by the end of this? Give me 2 or 3, if you will.
If we go for a bullpen, then like I know it's be kind of like the price will be probably our range with it. Like I would even bring in like a Kelly Jansen, like I mentioned Clay Holmes earlier.
Yeah,
Kirby Yates, like these guys, like they're not the Jeff Hoffmans, the Estevezes, and all like the elite like relievers in that. But you could probably have a good price. They have their resume. You don't have to. Jason never signed a bullpen arms for a long time. Let's be real. Most they go is 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably get them for like a backloaded deal for this year, and if it doesn't work, ship them off in the offseason.
I've always said, Jesse, there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal. I will sign any reliever that'll accept a 1-year deal, bring him on board, and then if he sucks, we just DFA him mid-season. Contract's already on the books anyway. We will see. Now let's touch on the bullpen here then. Oh, before I do, I want to give my 2 names first. I think the Blue Jays should really throw some money at like a Shane Bieber type, see what he can do for us here as well. I really like Christian Walker. There's not a ton on the free agent side that I like. I would really love Teoscar Hernandez back, but I really don't think the Blue Jays are going to go that route. So those are just some names I would really like to see on the free agent side, plus some smaller names we'll touch on later. But Jesse, let's talk bullpen, right? And I prepped you coming into this that we are going to fix the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen this episode. I think we've got it. The Blue Jays bullpen is a mess. It is a disaster. And frankly, it got worse. Jordan Romano was non-tendered. Right?
Exactly. It has more holes than Swiss cheese.
Oh, yikes. I wish never mind. We just lost Genesis Cabrera. We cut him. He doesn't sign a contract. He's in with the Mets now on a minor league free agent. Dylan Tate didn't even get brought back either. We did re-sign Eric Swanson. So before we dive into the bullpen, let's talk a little bit about Jordan Romano first and the decision here to non-tender him after he was projected to make $7.5 million in arbitration and had a 6.59 ERA over just 13 innings pitched. Could not stay healthy last season. First, Jesse, do you think it was a good move from the Blue Jays? And 2, what would you have done in their shoes?
Definitely was something we obviously all Jays fans were hearing that it could be a possibility that him as well as Swanson and some other people could have been non-tendered. Obviously, they re-signed Swanson, but with Romano, it just really shows that there's something probably even like still wrong with that elbow. Like we know he had the bone I think the arthroscopic surgery on his elbow or like bone chips removed during the season. What was really going on? Is it possible that he actually has a slight tear in that UCL and they're like, we're not going to pay if he threw I'm not sure if he threw a bullpen before all this happened to see, but there's something more. I feel like it could be like he probably could be gone for the season. Like if it's like why they signed it, or they have a little like under the table deals like we're not going to tenure this, but we will bring you back on like say a 2 year at that same price, and like you get the surgery this year and then come back the next. Kind of like what Seattle did with Ken Giles when they signed him.
And we've seen in the past with other relievers undergoing Tommy John who are free agents. Kirby Yates was an example like this for the Padres a while back. Like there have been other free agent pitchers who've done this. I think I'm with you. Chad Green, great example that the Blue Jays did. Yep. I think what happened here is you're ultimately right. The Blue Jays know Jordan Romano's medicals better than any other team in baseball. And I think they saw the elbow. And I think too, when he tried to come back in September, got into a couple like bullpen sessions and couldn't even get back on the mound again, I think that really soured their taste. So the Blue Jays ultimately decided that they can use that $7.5 million they get from non-tendering Jordan Romano to make their bullpen better in other ways. And I get it. I see it. And if you're Jordan Romano, you might as well enter free agency, see what else is out there, right? You know, maybe a team looks at the guy who got 25 plus saves each of the last 3 years, was a 2-time All-Star, third on the franchise list in saves, and they can say like, hey, we'll sign Jordan Romano. He could probably be had pretty cheap, and maybe he turns back into that guy again. You're looking at a great pitcher who can pitch in the bullpen for you. Makes a lot of sense if you're some of these teams, and I can see why the Blue Jays cut him as well. Do you think Jordan Romano ends up back as a Toronto Blue Jay, or is he gone?
Probably realistically, if you're going to non-tender something, he's going to go to the warmer weather of the USA in the summertime and not, or he'll enjoy his time with his Italian culture and all that, and just play work with the Italians out there.
Sure, he will find a gig somewhere, guaranteed. There's definitely a team out there that thinks they can fix him or take a chance on the medicals and will sign him. We will see. Whatever contract he gets will show a lot about what they think about Jordan Romano's elbow. Do you think there's a chance, Jesse, that he'll sign with a new team and he's just back, like mid-twos ERA, all-star worthy, 30-plus saves again? Do you think that's in there, or do you think that Jordan Romano's gone?
If it's for the Jays, I would love him to be back, but I really don't think the mid-twos ERA Jordan Romano from like the bubble year or the year after that is going to be back. It's just I feel like too much, like how much he was used over the few years, like as our closer, because us Ace fans know he never can have an easy win. And how much he pitched, I feel like just the mileage and toll has done a number on him.
Yeah, it could just be the elbow, but the fastball velocity dropped a little bit too. He did have a lot more meltdowns. Even in his last good year in 2022, it wasn't looking so hot. There were some signs of decline. Got hit at a career high late last year and just stopped getting outs at the top of the zone, which was not something you ever saw from Jordan Romano. So I'm with you. He'll probably still have a good major league career, probably pitch 3, 4, hell, maybe 5 or 6 more seasons with a big league club. But I think that stud pitcher of Jordan Romano is likely done with as well. Let's talk about the decision to bring back then Eric Swanson, who avoided arbitration, coming in slightly under his estimate at $3.2 million, signing it at a 1-year, $3 million contract. Jesse, Eric Swanson will be part of our bullpen going into next season, a bullpen we're going to try to fix. Do you think this was a good move, or should maybe the $3 million spent on Eric Swanson should have gone elsewhere?
I actually don't hate it as much as probably most people do. If you look at last year, first half of the season was a free nightmare for him.
Yes.
First with what happened with his son Toby. Mm-hmm. Then he gets injured right before the season. Then he goes to Buffalo to try to rehab and probably rushed it. Let's be real. Struggles out the gate, gets sent down to AAA, where he figures it out, and just then he comes back up the second half of the season and really started to show the true cut, the Eric Swanson that we saw the year before, where he pitched into almost 70 games. And I feel a lot of it possibly also, obviously, a lot of stuff behind the scenes that he went through, but it probably was a lot of fatigue from the year before that caused that issue in the beginning of the half. And then that reset in Buffalo, he really showed, and he implemented a new, another pitch, his slider. I heard in an interview that he was throwing more, and said this season he is going to implement that. So it's going to be just a fastball splitter. He's going to have that slider to help him in other situations too.
Yeah, threw it about 20% of the time last year. He actually started throwing more fastballs than splitters this season than he did in years past. But also, too, you talk about that trip down to Buffalo. Apparently, Erik Swanson was tipping a lot of his pitches, too, which if you know the fastball or splitter's coming, it's much easier to hit if you know it's there. So maybe that had something to do with it as well. People are going to look at the ERA he had after the call-up, which I think is in the twos, 2.9 something. But if you look under the hood, he was still getting hit very hard. He was still allowing a lot of base runners. His xFIP and xERA were still right around 5 for Erik Swanson. The Blue Jays will sit here and they will tell you that, well, the pitch shape still looked the same. He's still getting the good movement, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just looking back at his game logs here, and it's like he allowed so much more hard contact. Even in that stretch, he was quote unquote good. That I think it's really hard for a reliever just to get that soft contact ability that we saw his first year here, his last year in Seattle. Kind of what I talked about earlier, when like a soft contact pitcher loses it, it goes disastrous very quickly. And I think we're here with Erik Swanson, who, remember, will be 31 next season. On the wrong side of 30 again for this reliever. I don't like the move. I think we should have spent that $3 million elsewhere. But I also think part of it is the Blue Jays made a trade for this guy. They want to look smart, right? They don't want to let him go and pretend like, yeah, we screwed up, right? So they're doubling down on Erik Swanson. And I don't think it's going to work for this team.
It's like we heard before, and the Jays like to look smart and not dumb.
That's right. They'd rather do the move that makes them look smart than the right move that actually would make them have a better baseball team. Like, absolutely.
Oh, right. Definitely. It should be interesting, though, for that.
All right. That's Erik Swanson. So we know he will be a part of this bullpen. Let's talk about the rest of the bullpen then. Jordan Romano gone. Erik Swanson in. Right now, on paper, Jesse, our bullpen looks like this. And guys, it's not going to be pretty. So hide your ears if you are listening to this. But right now, in our closing spot, we have Chad Green, who has 28 career saves, got 17 of them last year with the Toronto Blue Jays. The only other players on this bullpen currently that's ever got a save in Major League Baseball is Erik Swanson has 10, and Brandon Littell and your friend Zach Poop have 1 save apiece. No other pitcher on the Blue Jays bullpen depth chart has a save in his career. And as things stands right now, it's Chad Green, Erik Swanson, Zach Pop, Brandon Littell, Hagen Danner, Tommy Nance, Nick Robertson, with the caveat that if we do sign a starter, Yariel Rodriguez likely moves into this mix as well. Jesse, I just want you to fill in the blank. And here it is. Fill in the blank. This person will lead the Toronto Blue Jays in saves in 2025. Now, it could be in the organization, or if you're calling your shot on a trade or a free agent, just give me the name on who has the most saves for the Blue Jays next year.
Ryan Helsley.
Okay. So you think a big trade is coming with him there, eh?
Well, the Jays and the Cardinals always have that like relationship when it comes to like trades and even the relievers, like Raciso, Zipchinski, Dotel, like some certain players in the past from each, or Dominic Leone. Like, Jays have a history of getting the Cardinals bullpen and some players from the Cardinals in the past, so I can see the history repeating itself.
Okay, I like that call. I'm going to go off the board a little bit. Clay Holmes is the name I want, but I think the move that's going to happen will be Paul Sewald. I think will be the name of the guy who leads the Blue Jays in saves next year. But let's assume it doesn't happen. Let's say you had to pick a name out of the guys currently on the Blue Jays roster. Chad Green lead the team in saves, correct?
Nope. I would give it to Hagen Danner or Mason Foulardi.
So you think one of them comes in right in spring, shuts the door down, and automatically moves into that role?
That's definitely what I think. Like, it could possibly be like almost like how in 2015 when like Osuna and Castro like were just kids and just took over our back end of the bullpen.
Right. Yeah, they came in with a monster spring and they got right in there. Now, I don't think Mark Shapiro or Ross Atkins have the balls that Alex Anthopoulos had to do that, but I like where your head is at. I like what you're thinking. The Blue Jays desperately need, I would say, definitely 1, 2, maybe even 3 high-impact arms here, back-end reliever types, and at least 1 or 2 of them need to have a very good fastball, because that is something our Blue Jays bullpen currently doesn't have. So out of those list of relievers I had mentioned here, how many of them are going to be Blue Jays on opening day? Like, when we break camp, are in this bullpen, and I'll give you those names again in just 2 seconds here. But that is Chad Green, Eric Swanson, Ryan Burr, Brandon Littell, Zach Pop, Tommy Nance, Hagen Danner, Nick Robertson. How many of those names are in your bullpen opening day?
I would say 4, and it would be Green, Swanson, Danner, and Yariel Rodriguez.
Okay. Because we've signed a starter and Yariel is now in the bullpen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so out of those names, then you really gave me 3, and that did not include Brandon Littell, who is the only lefty out of the group. So I do think his job is actually quite secure now that Genesis Cabrera is off the roster. And I want to remind you that Brandon Littell did lead baseball in ground ball percentage last year. So I think the Blue Jays are going to see that, and they're going to keep Brandon Littell in their bullpen here as well. But I'm with you. Nick Robertson is probably good as gone. I don't understand why Hagen Danner wasn't in this bullpen at all last year. I think we talked about it at the time. Like, his stuff is good. His fastball is probably better than any other fastball in this bullpen. You need that. I do think if he just shows up to camp healthy and is good, I think he's in this bullpen, and you agree with me as well, right?
No, definitely. And like, there's names too that are in our minor system that I'm hearing too. It's like Clark Cook or TJ Brock could possibly be a piece this year too. That if we don't fill it out with any signings.
Right. Neither of them are on the 40-man roster right now, but the Blue Jays do have guys like Easton Lucas, Brett DeGuss. Like, they can be cut. No worries. I do want to throw out the name Michael Peterson, who was claimed off waivers from Miami. He is a name to watch in this Blue Jays bullpen here. He does throw as high as 98. He does walk too many guys, and that's always been the issue with a guy who can throw this hard. But he does have a good fastball. If he can get things to click, right, he is a name to watch. He's on the 40-man. We're going to see him in spring training this year. I like that call there. But obviously, Jesse, this bullpen needs some work. This bullpen needs some more lefties, too. Like, Brandon Littell's the only one, and I don't know how much faith you have in a Easton Lucas, or if you have much faith in a Brandon Eisert. Those are the only other left-handed middle relievers on the 40-man roster. So I think the Blue Jays are likely either going to sign some guys that get cut off waivers here to join them from the left side, or we're going to sign a left-handed reliever to join this pen. And I'm looking at the list of free agents that are available from the left side. I see guys like Ryan Yarborough could join this thing. I'm looking at names like Andrew Chafin, Jalen Beeks, Will Smith, Colin Pouchet. Maybe we bring back old friend Ryan Barucki, Tim Hill, who just pitched a bunch for the Yankees in the postseason, came out of nowhere. I do think one of those names is going to end up in the Blue Jays bullpen this year, simply because we just need more lefties.
Oh, definitely. I can see there's a bunch of random players that I call them random, but obviously not well known players. Lefties relievers, because realistically, not many people know the lefty relievers unless they're the elite of the elite. But a funny name too that I was hearing that would be interesting to bring back, and he is a former Jay. Anthony Gose.
Oh, interesting. He throws from the right hand side, but interesting. I'd have to look up his
high 90 fastball.
It would be a hell of a story. Comes full circle, right? Part of the Halliday trade way back when. He comes here and he pitches well. I think you're asking a lot if Anthony Gose is going to come into your bullpen. And he got into 3 games, 4 innings, has a whip of 2.3. Not buying it, but maybe, sure, minor league invite to spring training and see how it would go. You can sell me into that. Jesse, true or false? The Blue Jays are going to sign one of the high-end Blue Jays relievers here, and that's guys like Tanner Scott, Jeff Hoffman, Carlos Estevez, or Aroldis Chapman. Blue Jays signing one of those names?
I feel like unless they have that special budget for they were going to do for Ohtani, if they do it for Soto as well, and we get Soto, sure. But if we don't get Soto, which again we're really not thinking who we are, no.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think any of those guys are going to be Blue Jays either.
Why would you pay a reliever starting pitching price? That's where my whole theory is on that.
Right, exactly. So then how about the next tier of Blue Jays of relievers that are free agents? Guys like Clay Holmes, Blake Trinan, David Robertson, Paul Sewald. Any of these names going to become Blue Jays next year?
I would love Blake Trinan. Clay Holmes, I would love. Seawald is just a weirdo with his spin rate on his ball, like his pitches and that. But like, I can see that group, not all of them, but like, at least maybe one or even two of them becoming Jays, or even our old friend Yimi Garcia.
Yeah, which we haven't mentioned, by the way. Unless his elbow is also shattered, I think that would be a good fit to bring him back into the pen. I really like Clay Holmes. Yankees fans soured on him, and I understand because he couldn't do it in the ninth, but Clay Holmes' numbers were really good, and he was really good in the postseason for them as well. Is absolutely a target I do believe the Blue Jays should be going for. I do think we sign one or two of those guys, especially if the older guys like the Blake Trinan types can be had at a 1 or 2 year deal with a high AAV, and then can go for that. I really think throwing your money at guys like that is the best thing to fix this Toronto Blue Jays bullpen. So I'm with you. In terms of long relief, because this Blue Jays team does need some starting depth, right? Jake Bloss is really the only guy down there right now. Ricky Tiedemann's still hurt. Manoah's not coming back till late season, right? Even if we sign a guy, Yarl becomes our sixth guy, we still need some long relief. So do you have a name of like a long relief guy we can throw down there?
Oh, I would love to bring back Ryan Yarbrough. Like with what he did when he joined us from the Dodgers and that, like I'd bring back Yarbrough.
Seems to make the most sense. And it's actually really funny. If you look at the Blue Jays pitchers on a rate basis, Ryan Yarbrough was actually our best pitcher last year, which I find very comical. I agree. Look, we know the Blue Jays need pitching depth, and we know the Blue Jays have an aging rotation. Chris Bassett, Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios all have a lot of innings under their belt. Even Bowden Francis is inconsistent. Like, we don't know what we're going to get from him, right? Yariel Rodriguez is a question mark. So I wonder if we look at guys like Lance Lynn, a Chris Flexen, a Kyle Gibson, and guys that if we'd be like, okay, you can start the year in the bullpen, but maybe we bring you out and have you pitch in in a starting rotation in a flinch. Michael Lorenzen's another name, for example, that we could throw in. And I think the Blue Jays should be smart at maybe spending the money that way. Frankie Montas is another name of a guy who could start in the pen, come out and make some spot starts for you. And I think the Blue Jays were smart because I don't know if you know this, Jesse, you can never have enough pitching. I don't know if you've ever heard that around baseball, but it is true. Geez. And signing guys like this, especially for cheap, would be a good move for this team.
Oh, definitely. Like, remember when we thought we had too much depth in pitching? Well, boy, were we wrong last year.
Yeah. No, not a chance. It never, ever happens. And look, the Blue Jays are probably going to get some bounce back somewhere, right? I don't think Zach Pop can be that bad again. I mean, yes, he can, but, there's going to be something here. And I think the Blue Jays bullpen can get better here quickly and surely. And I think the Blue Jays are expecting a bounce back anyway, which is why things should go better. So do you think we fixed the bullpen, Jesse, with all that? Do you think we got there?
I hope so, but again, it's the bullpen for a reason. Let's hopefully it actually can be called a bullpen this year, but they did a lot of damage this past season, so like they did in 22, like it's going to take some time to unsour those grapes when it comes to like the taste of like having trust in our bullpen.
Okay, I'm with you, my guy. It'll be less painful next year, I hope, then, to watch how this do. Jesse, 5 minutes left. We're going to wrap it up here. And I've got a fun little quick game of do these things matter? And they're kind of small, they're kind of fun, but, we can get the conspiracy theories going a little bit. First off, Jeff Passan literally just tweeted that Juan Soto does not have a deal as of this time right now. There's a lot of buzz going around on the internet that he signed in Boston. Not true. He is still a free agent. But we did know that Juan Soto was in a Celsius ad. And for those of you who don't know, Celsius energy drink, popular here in Canada. People have had it, and he put on the hat and stuff. And I'm just saying, Jesse, was he trying to drop a hint maybe that he's coming to the Toronto Blue Jays by throwing out the Celsius ad? You tell me.
I don't know. We are the only our temperature is in Celsius.
Interesting, yes.
And if you look at the Blue Jays logo, like the one you have behind you, the 3 colors, all the colors he has in that video, navy blue in his suit, the white in his shirt, the royal blue microphone, and the red microphone.
Interesting.
What logo is that?
Sounds like the Blue Jays, if you ask me. That's it. I'm sold. And if if the Vlad Gatorade bucket at the end of the games has to be full of Celsius instead, sign me up. I will buy cases.
And it's low calories.
Love that. Even better. And gives the energy. Soto, I'm sold, buddy. All right. That was fun. I got one more here. Ernie Clement just made an Instagram page, and we talked about how earlier this year Ernie Clement was changing his number to number 22 from the number 28. But he just made an Instagram account called Ernie Clement and had the number 28 on that again. We're grasping at straws deep into the offseason here, Jesse, but is that anything?
Who wears 22?
Juan Soto wears 22.
So did maybe Soto's going to buy him a house to get his number?
Man, Ernie Clement out here playing checkers, right? Switch to 22 just so when we sign Soto, he's got to pay him to get off the number. Sneaky stuff, Ernie Clement. Maybe he's tired of having Horowitz and Davis Schneider as roommates and wants his own space.
Or buy a big enough house for all three of them.
Hell yeah. That would be a party I'd love to see. That would be a lot of fun. Realistically, it's probably nothing, but hey, we're getting deep into the offseason here and we need some content, so let's keep that rolling. Jesse, good stuff here. Good episode here today. We covered a lot of stuff. Next week, unless there is a massive Blue Jays move or trade or something, we will probably start looking at trade targets for this Blue Jays team and how we can get better there. And I think we hammered a few of them. But 3 minutes left in the show. Was there anything outside of the world of baseball you wanted to plug in here?
No, just getting ready for the holiday season, especially with the little one getting all the festive and having the Christmas decorations blowing up all over our house and pretty much feeling like I'm in the North Pole. Yes. But it is this season, and for us in Canada, and like having the little one who's super excited, so you gotta get all that ready for them. But yeah, you've been busy this past little while. So.
Yes. I look forward to seeing your Christmas photos with you and the family, Jesse. That'll be very nice. But no episode last week. I was on vacation. I went on a nice little sports trip. And the problem with doing a sports vacation in November is no baseball to watch. But I checked out 4 hockey games, 2 football games, 3 NBA games, spent a lot of money, ate a lot of waffles at hotel bars throughout the United States. Some good stuff. I almost felt what it was like to be a major league player, going on the road and staying in hotels and doing all out of the travel. I gave up after 9 days. I decided I had to come back home. The show must go on. But it's a lot of fun. Cleveland was a great time. Check out the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if you are ever in Cleveland. Shout out to Cleveland. Going to get to a Jays game out there this year. Great city. I really enjoyed my time there, probably the most. Cold. A lot of snow, a lot of football. Follow us on Instagram, or we tweeted out a bunch of links if you wanted to follow along with that. But hell of a trip.
Oh, definitely. But when you're in Buffalo, you needed to go to Duff's in Buffalo. Like I told you this. Like, I didn't see no buffalo wings there, or even some Detroit style deep dish. Like, come on, like we like our foods. We gotta eat these foods.
I did eat pizza in Detroit, and I did eat chicken wings while in Buffalo, but it wasn't the ones you were recommending. So maybe when we get out to a Bison's game this year, we can go get some chicken wings. But that'll do it for episode here today. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for all of you who tuned in live. Our numbers keep getting bigger and bigger as we go into the off season. I guess the fans are craving some Blue Jays content, and we hope to give it here. Please make sure you follow us on all the social media pages. We're going to make a Blue Sky account here some point soon, so get ready, follow us on that. But in the meantime, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, we'll be posting out a bunch of content on there. And of course, if the Blue Jays do anything, you're going to want to hear from us. We'll go live and we'll talk from then. But for Jesse Tricio, I'm Jesse Burrell. Thank you all for joining, and we will be back next week to talk some hypothetical trades. In the meantime, let's go Blue Jays.
Thanks, guys.